Hello and happy Easter. So, Easter's about sort of new beginnings, isn't it? Quite often we think about sort of the religious side of it at Easter, and Easter eggs is the beginning of a chick, obviously not the chocolate ones. Um, and we're talking in our Society of Authors local group, of which I'm the leader and organizer, about how we get published, if you like, the beginnings of our books. And some people are really keen to be traditionally published by one of the big sort of publishing houses because they feel, probably quite rightly, that their book will get the best nurturing, love, attention, distribution, and so on. Others are more keen to go down the self-publishing route because it will happen quicker, they'll have more control about the distribution, and let's face it, you do earn more when you self-publish because when you publish down the traditional route, you get usually some sort of advance, not huge, certainly not these days, unless you're somebody like J.K. Rowling, I guess. And you get about 10%. So, say for one of my books, £11.99, £12.99, just over £1 per book. Whereas, of course, the same price for the book when you're self-publishing, Amazon or whoever you're having it printed by and distributed by, you maybe pay sort of a couple of pounds, and basically the rest is yours. So for £11, £12 book, you're making a good £5 per book, which is 5 times as much. Let's face it. It would be good to think that when you are published by a traditional publisher, they do the marketing for you, but they don't. This was a bit of a surprise to me when I was first published. And you're expected to do it yourself, which for a lot of writers is actually quite overwhelming, because whilst you might be a good writer and be great at coming up with stories, with plots, with characters, and nothing is nicer than sort of burying yourself away somewhere with those characters, with those ideas, and getting it all out there. And then what you want to do is share it with readers who will love those characters, those locations, perhaps as much as you do. And the thought really of having to get involved in that rather dark side, a lot of writers think of it as the dark side of going down, having to get involved in sort of reels and tags and hashtags, getting followers, following the right people, and posting on social media. And the sort of posts you might do on social media, obviously quite different from the sort of posts that you will do, excuse me, as part of your book. I guess that's one of the reasons why I quite enjoy doing these podcasts, because I don't have to set up. I mean, you might have heard that little noise there. That was the dog coming in the room. I don't set up lights and camera and action and all of that stuff. I don't invite fascinating guests on. I'm afraid you just have to put up with me. And what do I share? I share what I know. I'm not interviewing other people about what they know, which would be probably the humbler approach. But I am actually sharing extracts from my books. And in this particular podcast, I wanted to share something about the writing process, because it is something that a lot of writers struggle with. You may be sitting there listening to me as a writer yourself, and I've certainly spoken to writers both through the London Writers' Salon, which is where what supported me during lockdown. Do 4 sessions a day to cover all the time zones, and they are absolutely beautifully handled. They hold the space for you. They encourage. They have midweek mingles. They have parties, online parties. They have sort of, words of wisdom. They have writing. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But if you aren't with the London Writers Salon, you can feel really quite isolated and wonder, what to do next, and wondering, how you're ever going to find an agent, how you're going to get published, and so on. So I thought I'd share with you a little about my journey. I used to run Kids Brands Europe. You're probably wondering, what on earth has that got to do with anything? But I didn't start off I did start off with a writer writing little stories for my dolls when I was little. But I went into marketing and in the children's space, the children's market, working with toy companies like Lego, Mattel, Hasbro, Little Tikes, Disney, and so on, and a lot of the TV production companies. So my work was working with children, mostly children rather than teens, I would say, although some projects did involve teens. Really finding out what they thought about products and TV shows, often pilots, to see whether everything was on the right path, whether children were enjoying the characters, and so on. And I was very successful in that. I spoke at conferences all over the world, and I really enjoyed myself. It was a really good experience, and it was really good. So then what happened? But just my screen is going bonkers here, and I don't know what's going on. I think it is probably still recording. There you go. This just shows how completely incompetent I am at this. Anyway, so I was actually having a drink with somebody, a friend of mine from where I used to live in Birchett's Green, who was telling me about this creative writing course he was on. And I thought, wow, it sounds amazing. It covered screenwriting, writing for children, writing all sorts of things, basically the whole works. It was an open university course. I had previously done some journalist training and enjoyed that. So I wasn't a complete newbie in the world of writing. So I investigated, and I decided to sign up, which is what I did. I signed up for the Open University course and joined it and had fun. Great fun. Anyway, as part of that, they encouraged you to do freelance writing. And so I thought, well, I'll do that. And what was really good about that was that I could combine research and writing, because I would perhaps apply for a freelance writing project that might have involved perhaps the importance of exercise during pregnancy, or how to go back to work after having a baby, or how to relax. Or I also wrote meditation scripts and, oh gosh, loads of different projects. Many of which actually were related to NLP, which I had studied with Sue Knight previously. I was already a master practitioner of NLP and was applying NLP with my own 4 children. So put together then NLP, working with children, having children, writing, it probably wouldn't come as a huge surprise to you to find that when we were all invited to a talk, this is all the creative writing group, to a talk about the difference between traditional and self-publishing. And obviously, I was very interested, but I didn't think it was for me, because I thought, well, I'm only a freelance writer. I'm just a ghostwriter, really. I'm not like a proper writer. And also, writing about NLP and children, I didn't think, well, it's not a story, it's not fiction. My big thing was, wanting to write fiction. Anyway, we had the various sessions. We had the self-publishing session, which was half a day, and we had the traditional publishing session. And there was an opportunity to ask questions. And the person who was speaking was from Hodder. And I asked the question, would I be able to submit, because I'm just a freelance writer? And lots of people around me sort of turned around and said, but that's a writer. And I do find that nowadays, when I talk to people, oh, I'd like to be a writer, but they are writing, they are already a writer. And the person giving the talk, who I'm still in touch with now, she said, well, of course, in fact, actually, as a freelance writer, as a ghostwriter, it means you can write in different genres, different voices. I'm obviously, as a freelance writer, you have to adapt to the sort of personality and the style and the tone and the brand and so on. So you are having to be quite flexible in your writing. So she said, yes, absolutely, of course. And anyway, there was a queue of people at the end, waiting to speak to her. And I asked her, would I be able to submit something that was, something around, NLP, which I'm qualified in, and parents, because I think, as a parent, I found NLP enormously helpful. I think other mums will too, other parents will too. And she said, absolutely. Well, I then went home and she said, all the details are on the website, the Hodder website, went home, downloaded all the details, made my submission, and waited to hear. Very optimistic, because I was such a newbie. I had no idea how hard it was to be published. Anyway, I heard back from them and they said they were interested, but the tone wasn't quite right. It was a bit sort of preachy, a bit sort of teachery, like, I'll tell you how to. So I then rethought the whole thing and thought, well, rewrote it as, what did I find really helpful? Putting in lots of examples of my then younger children, obviously, and now grown-ups with children of their own, and resubmitted, and I got a publishing deal. I got an advance, I got a deadline, and all the rest of it. And that book is published by Hodder. It's still published by Hodder, although I am hoping to get the rights back so that I can take more control of it. And update it, of course, because that was some time ago. That was 2011, I think. So although the content hasn't changed really, I mean, NLP is NLP, kids are kids. Kids have changed quite a bit, and attitudes towards parenting have changed, and society has changed, almost unrecognizably. But obviously the principles of NLP remain the same. So Be a Happier Parent is still available. You can buy that on Amazon or buy it via my website. And actually, I've got the part 1 of it up on Amazon at just £1.50, really, to give people quite an idea, an introduction, really. Anyway, that isn't really my point. So Be a Happier Parent was published. And because they were really happy with my writing, my meeting deadlines and so on, I was quite sort of, I let them make all the decisions. I wouldn't necessarily now. I didn't realize you could have a decision on things like the cover, although the first cover for Be a Happier Parent actually was lovely. It's sort of like gingerbread men, really nice. Then they asked me to do other books, knowing that I had a background in market research. I wrote Learn Market Research in a Week, which obviously you can't do, but I mean, the idea is it's quite sort of a practical guide. My writing is quite straightforward, quite practical, doesn't lend itself terribly well to fiction, sadly, and writing very much for busy mums, I guess. So I wrote Learn Market Research in a Week. I also wrote Secrets of Success in Brand Licensing. So both of those relate to my world before that. and I wrote the Self-Esteem Workbook and the NLP Workbook. So all of those books I wrote in that period, but I wanted to write some smaller books, more workbooks for children and teens, and I had to go to MX Publishing for those because Hodder didn't want sort of such small books. And basically, that's how my publishing journey started, traditionally published through Hodder. And in fact, I have another book being published by Hodder as we speak and coming out, I believe, in September. That one was called Secrets of Success in Brand Licensing, and it did really well. So they've asked me to update that, which I did just before Christmas. They were going to call it Lessons in NLP or Lessons of the NLP Masters. Oh no, I don't think we want lessons. That sounds a bit serious. So I asked them to call it Insights. So there I sort of learned, I suppose, that I had a voice as a writer. But that was a long time coming. I mean, we're now in 2025 and I started being published in 2011. It's taken a while for me to sort of feel I can give an opinion on the sort of cover or on my writing. And I think that's gone alongside really now choosing to self-publish some of my books. Two recent books of mine, Understanding Children and Teens, which is the title of my podcast, Understanding Children and Teens. That book and Empower Your Kids were published by Free Association Books. And I suppose my expectations were that they would do more to distribute it and to support it than they did. But that was my naivety. They were leaving it to me, and I was just not doing as good a job as I should have done, really. So I've learnt now how to do it, but therefore I needed the rights back in order to do that. So I now have the rights to those two books. So that's really my publishing journey. Where am I going with this? I'm at the moment learning how to self-publish, which is a bit of a uphill struggle for me because like most writers, I'd rather just be writing. But I do enjoy social media and I do enjoy sharing what I know, which is what social media is, isn't it? Really, it's sharing what you know and hoping other people will find something useful from it. So I hope you've learned something about me. I'm very, very enthusiastic about helping children and have always been so, doing whatever I can to make their world happier, easier, calmer. And so my therapy practice is my day job. Most writers have a day job. So that's my day job, running NLP and EFT kids and helping children and teens and parents. And then on the other side of it, and very much part and parcel with it, is writing and training. Because when I train other people to do what I do, then the word gets out in other countries, other parts of the world, other parts of England, and so on. Other people then are also helping children and learning from what I've been doing over the last 20 years as a therapist working for children and families. And the writing is yet another way to get it out there, as it were to spread the word, to help. And my writing, my reviews are always saying things like, very practical, very easy to read, easy to apply, all about, feeling that they could do what I'm talking about. It's not sort of complicated. It's really very easy, I would say, very easy to read and apply. And that's the sort of reviews I get. So I hope you are reading some of my books. And bless you all and have a happy Easter.